Hi guys, it's Jeff here, the photographer's mentor, ready for another live on LinkedIn and Facebook. So this week I'm going to be joined by Michelle again. So this is our third webinar together. We don't have a slideshow for this one. We're just going to bounce some ideas off you and talk about goal setting, beating procrastination, and setting yourself up for an absolutely amazing 2023. So goal setting is something that Michelle is a bit of an expert at. I'm a bit of it as well. So combining both of our viewpoints, that's really, really important, because if you don't have goals, if you don't have a vision for where you want to go to, if you don't have a roadmap for your business's success, how are you ever going to get there? You need to know what you're going to do, but it's not just a case of writing down, oh, well, I want to make 100 grand. Financial goals are usually goals that don't actually materialize because you haven't put the foundation and the structure in to achieve those goals. And that's what we're going to talk about within this live. And obviously I've written a book on goal setting. I'll do a little shameless plug of my book. This came out. It's called The Ambitious Photographer's Journal. It's a complete day-to-day journal, 12-month. It's not by date, so you can actually utilize it and start it anytime you want. And that's available on Amazon. Just type in on Amazon The Ambitious Photographer's Journal, and it's the perfect time to start. People are getting ready for New Year, so this is when you need to December start putting your goals in practice, ready for that 1st of January start if you want to be starting then. So I'm going to bring Michelle in, and we're going to talk about goal setting. But out of interest, before I bring Michelle in, if you just pop in the chat where you're watching from, and if you've got any goals for 2023, what would be your dream goal? If you could have any goal for 2023, what would be your goal? Hi, Michelle.
Hello, I'm just sharing us to my Facebook page so that they can see us too. So I'm just making sure. Come and join us.
So Michelle's got her nice little candle crackling away there as well. We're both got our woodwick candles on.
If it annoys anybody, please let me know and I'll take it off. But I love it. It's just so soothing. And funnily enough, the reason I have it is one of my goals. And we'll chat more about this in the one we've got in 2 weeks. But I want to move house, as Jeff knows. That's one of my big goals. And I want to move house with a fireplace. So I use these candles because they sound like fireplaces to visualize and help manifest my fireplace in my new home.
Brilliant.
So that was very random, but
but it's like having these things in place. Like I think we talked about last week, that my laptop screen is this motorbike that I want, and I've visualized that I'm going to have this motorbike by March next year, ready for the new Regis coming out, and I've got that visualization in place, and that is one of my goals. But with any goal, like I said at the very beginning, where a lot of people go wrong, a lot of photographers go wrong, is they set what I say is monetary goals. So they write down on a sheet of paper, what I want to do this year is I want to make 100,000. I want to make a six-figure goal, six-figure income this year. And then they put that down on their vision board or on their calendar, and then they just leave it. They don't actually work out how they're going to achieve this goal. And I think if you go deep down and into the foundations of goals and you break these goals out, the byproduct of these other goals is the financial amount. So when I write a new book, if I create a book, I want to write my new book. My new book is coming out in first week of December. That book itself will achieve lots of other things. So writing the book was a goal. Now that book is going to bring me financial rewards because it'll sell and I'll make money from that book. It will also bring me a lot of visibility. I'll be on a lot of podcasts. I'll be on a lot more webinars. It will bring clients to me. It will bring more opportunity to me. So writing that book in the first place brings the other elements in. So what's your thoughts on that? How do you go about with your goal setting?
Well, with my goal setting, I like to work backwards. So I'll come up with the goal, like you said, that monetary figure that you have. And then I'll sit down and work out, how can I achieve that by going backwards? So I almost visualize the end. So I'm in this position, I have this money, I've made this. And then it's something called Kalegoing is what it's called. And there's a Kyle Cease came up with it. And if you can, actually getting someone to do it with is better. And you start telling them everything you did to achieve that. So you almost imagine you're a year down the line and you're saying, oh, this year has been amazing. I've done 10 podcast recordings, which got me an extra 20 coaching clients. Or from a photographer perspective, I went to this networking meeting and I ended up committing to doing networking every month. And that brought me in another 30 shoots this year. And you come up, what it's meant to do is it's meant to help your brain come up with ideas to complete the goal, because you're imagining it's done, but then you're thinking about what steps you've done to make it happen.
Yeah.
And it's a very clever way of doing it.
And I think, doing that backward focus thing is, something Anne from Lilac Heart Photography has just commented that on there on Facebook. What Anne says is, she's having trouble focusing on and prioritizing what her goals are. So what you can do is you can break, what I recommend people do is break their goals down into various areas. So with my own goals, I have personal goals. So that might be lifestyle goals. I have the financial goals, and the financial goals helps me set a goal to reach a particular target. So I might say, right, I want to do, you could say, right, I want to do 50 shoots this year, but each shoot at 2,500, which will help me reach that financial goal of whatever that amount is. So there's no point in saying, right, I want to do 100,000, but I need to know how many shoots at X amount to reach that 100,000. So that your pricing and shooting and financial goal all goes into one. But then another goal, which is a good goal to prioritize, is a visibility goal. And your visibility goal could be a social media. So you could say, right, well, at the moment, I've got 500 followers on LinkedIn. I want to, by the end of 2023, I want 5,000 followers on LinkedIn. So I have a client, Emma Dunham, who's a food photographer. And when I first started working with Emma, and Emma as well, she had 75 followers on LinkedIn. She's now getting close to 10,000. So what she'd done with that 10,000 goal, now it's brought her in. She's writing for magazines now as a food photographer. She's speaking at the Society's convention next year. She's got people who are interested in having her as an ambassador and representing their brand. She's guested on podcasts, and it's also brought her lots more clients in as well. So that one goal of visibility has fed into her other stuff, her opportunity goals. It's fed into her financial goals. It's fed into a number of client goals. But that wasn't for her going looking out for money. She was doing something different. She was going looking out for followers and authority on social media.
Yeah, and I think that's a brilliant way to look at it. It's not always, for some reason, and thinking back to our money mindset topic that we've just been talking about the last 2 weeks, we think money has to be the ultimate goal, where actually your goal could be to have a day off a week. Your goal could be to be fitter than you were. It doesn't always have to be money-wise. It could just be that you want to, I don't know, with your studio, with your work, you want to have a high-end client book. Maybe you're looking, for me in automotive photography, one of my goals was to shoot for Kawasaki, which I did. So that's not even a monetary goal. That was like, I want to shoot, and it was a specific bike. It was the H2R. And it was mainly because I just loved this bike. It was like my ultimate bike. So it wasn't a money goal. It was I want to shoot the H2R. And I think sometimes we do focus a little bit too much on the money goals and not what that brings us as a lifestyle goal. And we also forget, don't we, the little things are so important. The little consistent everyday jobs are what make the goals happen.
Well, what I would recommend people do is you start by having, make a coffee, sit down, get a sheet of paper and start writing down loads of goals. But goals from every avenue. So you have a financial goal, you have a number of shoots goal, you have a goal for your social media, a goal for LinkedIn, goal for Facebook. You might have a goal for your website. So you might say, right, I want to have a whole new website and a whole new brand by March or by April 2023. So write down some of these goals and also write down time limits on it, as Michelle has done that.
So they actually say to aim for 100 is what they say. You should aim to write out 100 goals. I mean, some of these are like, I can give you some so you can see. Be able to handstand. Visit Iceland and not the shop, guys. Judge for the societies, fellowship with the societies, visit Italy, have a holiday in a tree house.
Now it's interesting that you've said those, because one of the things I say inside the journal here is, and there's a section for it on what I call lifestyle goals. So lifestyle goals, like, be able to handstand, so quite often my lifestyle goals might be weight based, or I want to be able to do 100 press ups in a 1 hour. I used to be able to do it when I was fitter, but I had an accident and an injury and I can't do it now, but I'm slowly building up. And also get myself down to a certain weight. I've got a target weight of getting down to 88 kilograms. I'm on 91 now, so I'm getting there. I was over 100 back in March. But when you have a like a weight goal for me, and I reach that, I'm in a more confident place. I feel better about myself, and when I feel better about myself, I feel good at my work. I'm more productive, I'm more energized. So that even though that's not related to money or business, it has a knock-on effect to money and business. And then with these shoots, so we're saying, right, I want to make 100,000, and I'm going to do 50 shoots at £2,000 per shoot. I'm only saying this because it's easy maths. But what you might want to do is, out of those £2,000 per every shoot, you might say, right, I'm going to put 5% of that money into my Visit Iceland fund. So every time somebody comes in, and I've got there's a little app called Moneybox, which you can get on. It's a great little thing. It's a Moneybox. It's called Moneybox. It's a little app, and you can get it onto your phone, and it's backed by the Financial Services Authority as well. But I've got like 7 or 8 different accounts in my little Moneybox, and then every time I get payment, I'll transfer some money over, so they all have individual reasons. So when you get that shoot over, then right, that £2,000 comes in for that shoot. You put £50 or £100 into your Iceland fund, and then 3 months time, you've got that money for the Iceland. That goal has materialized because of your work. So it's essential that you have those reward goals. But loads of people always say, I'd love to do that. I've always fancied doing that. I travel a hell of a lot. I've had quite a lot of life experiences, but when I fancy something and I really think about it and it becomes a goal for me, then I say, right, well, it's not something I want to talk about. It's something I actually want to do. I want to be telling people in 6 months' time, it was amazing. One of my goals was a couple of years ago was to go to North Korea, the most unvisited place on earth, and I got there because I set it as a goal and I put money aside and I ended up getting there. So do that. If you have a real dream for something, start putting a little bit of your money that comes through from your shoots into this dream account, and then start to see it materialize. And that is your reward. You should feel really good for doing that.
I think as well, remembering to have small goals can build us confidence. So sometimes when you have a really big goal, it's much better to look at smaller goals within it, because when you achieve a small goal, you feel more confident about achieving the next step. Quite often, for some reason, like if I look at this list, I haven't just got the crazy big ones on there. And I think sometimes we think we have to go big, like really big. But if we think about a goal and we think, well, actually, we can achieve some smaller ones. So I want to write a book. It's not really small, but I want to learn calligraphy. Now, that takes me getting a book from Amazon and spending half an hour to an hour every day learning to write calligraphy. That's something that isn't going to cost a massive amount. It's going to take half an hour of my time, maybe a day, 45 minutes. But it's a smaller goal that can make you feel more confident about achieving your bigger goals because you'll feel good for having achieved something. So don't dismiss those tiny, tiny ones. Oh, I can cross one off, have a podcast.
Hey, well done.
Don't forget those smaller ones. Write them down. I want to try skateboarding. That's a case of me booking a lesson with a skateboarder and just trying it. I'm not saying I want to do it forever. I want to see if I like it. So just make sure you give yourself small goals and not just giant ones.
Because life's full of adventures as well, isn't it? You know, and I think we all work hard in our business, and it's nice to have these rewards and be able to do things. So like Michelle said, write down a load of goals in all different areas: visibility, personal goals, body goals, financial goals, shoot number of goals. And then once you've got those goals, you write them all down. Then the best thing to do is select maybe a couple from each area, you know, from lifestyle, from a business brand point of view, from a visibility point of view, and think about how you can start achieving them on a daily basis. So with Emma, when she went from 75 followers onto LinkedIn to nearly 10,000 followers on LinkedIn now, she didn't do that overnight. Emma has done that at about 25 to 50 connections every single day, and she does that while she's having a morning coffee. So what I say is break your big goals down into little things you can do every single morning. So you might want a visibility goal of posting to Facebook. You know, you want to grow your Facebook following to X amount, so you post to Facebook 4 times a week. But then you might have another goal is to have a whole new website. So I want an amazing, fantastic website. If you have it on there as a goal to have an amazing, fantastic website and you don't break that down, that can put you off actually doing anything about it. So you have that big goal as having your website. And then you think, right, next week's goal, I'm going to write the content from a homepage. Or I'm going to write the first part of my content from a homepage, and I'm going to sort out my banner image that I want for the top of my website. Then the following week, you say, right, I'm going to write the content for my about page and pick the images. So break your big goals down into easy, manageable goals, and maybe set 1 or 2 jobs per week that, above all else, you've got to get done. So if you want that website, then you've got to put the time aside this week to create that 1 page of text for your website homepage. How do you go breaking your goals down, Michelle?
It's very similar, really. It is looking at those little tiny things. But what I call the tasks that you decide you're going to do no matter what, they're called non-negotiables for me. So I have my weekly non-negotiables. I might even have my life non-negotiables. Like for me, I have to journal morning and evening. I do notice if I don't, I am grumpy. I'm very grumpy. And I also find that I'm not as focused in the morning because I actually write down the goals I'm working on at the moment in an affirmation statement as if it's already happened. And that then makes me more focused for the day. So that is a non-negotiable. I have to do that. So when you look at your goals, look at what you can make non-negotiable. You will not go to bed that day unless it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really good way of saying to yourself, I am doing this. Because sometimes we let these little things slip. But the word non-negotiable almost makes us in our head go, right, this is non-negotiable. I can't muck about with this. I'm doing this. But I break my goals down very similarly. I look at things I need to do to achieve that goal. Like the podcast, it was basically research the best place to host it. How am I going to spread it out? What am I going to use to record it? All of those things had to come into play. And even to the point of writing a list of the subjects I was going to cover, there are things that had to be done to make that happen. And I just went through each stage until finally I got off my butt and did it. But the other thing I think that's really important is having 5 major goals. Now, by major goals, I don't mean a monetary fee. I don't mean a, a yearly thing, but your 5 lifetime things. And those 5, that's what I have. Not everybody has to do it. But those 5 are things like, in my life, I want to help photographers and creatives become better with their mindset, to believe in themselves and to actually realize they can live a happy life. That's one of my big 5. And those, knowing what your big 5 are, helps you to come up with which goals are most important underneath. So because I want to help photographers, I want to do the mindset. That podcast is then a high goal for me. I know that I needed to create that podcast to reach more people. And obviously the podcast is free, but it's going to help people. So if I want to increase the number I want to help, that was a task that I'm going to choose. And I think by having those lifetime goals, like being, another one is health for me. And it's being the fittest I can be to create. It's being the best version of me I can be is one of my top goals.
Yeah.
So because of that, my fitness, my health, my nutrition, they all instantly become a high goal for me when I'm choosing which goals I'm going to focus on. I'm hoping that makes sense. It's like gives you an easier way of choosing which goals to focus on and which to put to one side for the moment.
Yeah. And I think, I did a very similar thing with, and I wrote this down probably about 5 years ago. And then I look back at it and think, oh, we're getting there, So I wrote down that I wanted to be, one of the top photography mentors in the world. I want to have published 5 best-selling books on Amazon. I want to create my own website company to help, because I've always been passionate about, getting photographers away from having portfolio websites and to go on to more like marketing, scroll to a sale websites. So that was something I wrote about. And then to work for a particular, a couple of particular brands I wrote down for like as in an ambassador capacity. So now, sort of years later, I've seen them start to come together. So what I did is I looked at the 5 best-selling books, and I actually wrote down the titles of the books and what sections they're going to cover. I've now got 3 out, or we'll have 3 out by 2 weeks' time. So I've only got 2 more, and I know the names of those other 2 books and what they're actually going to cover. I've created the website business. It's taken 4 years to develop, but it's always been in the back of my mind that it has been, one of my big keys that I want to do for the success in my business. So if you think about what your big overall goal is, then, or some of your big 5 overall goals, once you've got them, then start really writing about it. Maybe take a page for each one and visualize. I want to be able to do this, and it's going to have this, and it's going to have that, and I'm also going to be offering this. Really get as much detail. If your dream is to have a studio, like I know Anne from Lilac Art Photography has just opened a studio last month, then write about it. Write about your studio. Where is it? Where's it going to be positioned? What does it look like? What kit have you got in there? How many shoots do you want to be doing? Write all that in there. Get that, and that gets you excited. So for me, when I start to write a new book, one of the first things I do when I have the idea for the book is I quickly get the name down there. Once I've got the name down there, I send the name of the book and an idea to a designer who comes back with a cover. And when I get the cover and I see it, that gets me really excited, because I'm like, oh, this is starting to come to life. I haven't even put a word down, but I've got the vision and I can start moving forward that way. Answers it does get very excited. Out of interest, it would be interesting to hear, what your big goals are. Maybe not necessarily for your photography business, but do you have other goals within your life? So one of my goals is to, other than my mentoring and my business, one of my goals is to actually do the full Silk Road, which goes through quite a lot of the Stan countries like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and places like that. And I think it's about a 29-day trip to be able to do that. I don't know how I'm going to get 29 days off work to do it, because no doubt I wouldn't be getting some fantastic Wi-Fi signal across the mountains doing the Silk Road, but that is one of my big dreams to do, and I think, you know, that it will come, it will happen.
I think we also get very lost, don't we? If we don't keep reminding ourselves of what those goals are, we can end up spending our day being busy and not spending our day being busy towards the goals we want.
Yeah.
So that's quite important as well. Like, I've seen a few of you say you're like very overwhelmed with what you should focus on and what you should prioritize on in some of the comments. And like here, I literally, you can't really see it, but I've got a box of my weekly to-dos, and it literally, I write the top 5 in that little box. It wasn't meant to be, it was meant to be for the goals of this week, but I've changed it.
Yeah.
So that as I'm sitting on the week and I'm looking at what I'm doing throughout the week, I've got my reminders of what's important. So as I'm putting my week together, I'm sticking in the gym, because that health and self-care,
Yeah.
I want to be aligned, and I want to live my best life. That's one of my big 5. So I have to make sure that I schedule in the gym. I've got a kickboxing session tomorrow. I've put in my water bottles. I don't know if you see, and I have to fill my water bottles up. And I'm making sure that those things are being marked into my week, not just the work.
Yeah.
The work's going in as well, but it's important that I then schedule the other bits so that it's a balanced life, it's a happy life, and I am reminding myself that that's what I'm working towards in those 5 goals.
Yeah.
And by reading that every morning, I remember, it helps me to not be as distracted in the day, because I look at that goal and that is what I want to do. If I want to do that, I can't spend my day browsing on social media, not getting the list done that I've got on my today.
Yeah.
Like, that is important. And the constant reminder in the morning of why you're focusing, why you're doing what you're doing, can stop and help with the procrastination that we're also talking about, and the distractions and things like that.
And it's been, you know, funny enough, I read a book years ago by a guy called Bill Phillips, who created a program called Body for Life, just because Anne's mentioned about CrossFit, and one of our big goals is running storytelling workshops. But I know how Anne is very much into our fitness, and he says, you know, like, you don't have to do everything you want. You don't have to go and do like an hour at the gym every single day. It's always making these little decisions. So yesterday I was teaching up at Edinburgh College, and the train came into Edinburgh Waverley Station, and the college was, I quickly Googled it, it was 5 miles away. And I'm like, well, I don't have enough time to walk the 5 mile. However, I could walk 30 minutes or 25 minutes to the Edinburgh Haymarket, and then get the train from there. So I walked there, then got the tram, then I did the opposite on the way back. That added, I think it was about 10,000 steps to my day. So
yeah, we don't talk about your steps.
So it's like, I do that every morning, don't I? You know, if people leave me loads and loads of voice clips, I say to all my clients and people who follow me on social media, if you do have any questions, message me on Facebook. And I spend, you know, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm walking round and round and round in my living room, replying to everybody via voice clip, but I'm getting steps in. It's all adding up. You know, it's all making, and I always remember Bill Phillips, who wrote Body for Life, says, you know, whenever he's in a hotel, he will never ever take the escalator, he'll never take the lift. He will always take the stairs, because these little things make a difference, you know. And every time I go on holiday, I'm like, no, I'm not going to get the lift. I'm going to take the stairs, you know, because that makes a difference.
Never compete with Jeff on steps. Never compare yourself with Jeff on steps. I have no clue. Well, I do, because you have a very lively dog that needs walking quite a chunk of way. But just, yeah. That was my lesson this year.
But going back to making, you know, making things easy to do, and it's like we talked about it on week 1, didn't we? About developing routines, and you know, when I'm having sort of like a 2-3 week break from writing, and I'm going to start my 4th book in December, and like between Christmas and New Year, and then get back into it because I've just finished the other one. But you know, I would not write in here. I would write in the living room in a comfy chair, first thing in the morning. And one of my non-negotiable things was, right, I want to do 2,000 words per week. Now, if that is done at 2,000 words in one day, or 500 words per day, or 400 words per day, then good, But if I can try and, towards the end, I was struggling a bit because I was losing a bit of motivation. So I took 3 days off, and I got 10,000 words done in like 3 days. And I got it finished. And it was such a relief. But if you can put something in that becomes a habit, makes it so much easier, so if doing a book or doing a podcast like you did, you didn't set up a podcast, you researched what you needed to do, you researched the platforms, then you researched the equipment, then you've made a list of what your podcast is going to be called and its branding, made a list of the subjects. It's all broken down, then comes together in a completed podcast, which is absolutely fantastic.
And mornings are really good for that. Like you say, it was the first thing you did in the morning.
Yeah.
You almost, if you get up and go straight to do a task you don't want to do or have been putting off, your brain doesn't wake up quick enough to stop you.
Yeah, that's right.
So that can be a really good way of doing something you don't want to do.
But the thing is, as well, when you once we get up, because we don't get, like email is a nightmare, isn't it? Because email can, and so is social media. Once you start, and I've seen myself go to do something, then go to a notification, and then half an hour later, I'm thinking, what was I going to do? Why am I on Facebook? Why am I scrolling through Facebook? Or why? And email's the same. Email can take you. You go in to check something, next minute you've got a reply. Oh, I need to check where this is. Blah blah blah, and it takes you down like a completely different direction. And then as the day gets more active and people start to wake up, then you're getting the bombardment from phone calls, from social media notifications. And I guess at the end of the day, and go, I haven't done anything. I haven't got that done. But if you do it first thing, Constantine just made a comment there, and Constantine has started getting himself up that hour earlier because he gets away from the distractions of everything else, social media, emails, and get stuff done. And one technique I've got is, if I go to bed on a night, I can before I go to bed, I can switch the Wi-Fi off, so I don't actually get any distractions, because the Wi-Fi is switched off, and I'm living in the country, so I don't get a good signal on mobile anyway. And then when I go into bed, I leave my mobile phone on the landing. So when my alarm goes off, I do have to physically get out of bed to go and switch it off. Then I come downstairs, then I can start doing some writing before I switch the Wi-Fi back on. So at least I can open my laptop, open a Word document, and start doing something productive. Then when I've written 500 words, I say, right, now you can have a treat and see what the world's up to on social media, and then maybe check your emails.
Yeah, it's a really good way of doing things, that first thing in the morning. On a focus note, guys, when you switch from one task to another, you leave part of your focus on the last task. So if you imagine to give you a mental visualization, imagine leaving part of your brain on the last task. Now, if you're switching from Facebook to emails to the task that you were actually meant to be working on, back to emails, every time you do that circle, you leave a bit more of your brain on the last task. And we only have so much focus within a day that we can actually give. And if we keep allowing those little bits to steal that section of our focus of brain, you don't have much left after you've done that circle about 3 times.
Mm.
And I'm doing this to try, for those of you that are more visual, to think about physically losing a chunk. Say, imagine half your brain is full of focus. Imagine leaving a chunk of that on Facebook every time you click on Facebook, and every time you click from one task to the other, and you soon don't have any focus left.
Mm.
And I know we're talking about procrastination, but part of procrastination is using your focus in the wrong way, losing it on all these distractions, and then not having the brain power to focus on the thing you're concentrating on, which is why the early morning is so good, because you haven't lost, or none of that focus in your brain has been stolen yet.
Yeah.
You haven't left a part of the focus somewhere.
Mm.
And it's really important to think that because we really do spend too much time trying to multitask, trying to switch from one task to the other. And we need to kind of really control ourselves to stop. And sometimes that is just reading through why you're doing what you're doing. Because you read what you're doing and then you find yourself getting distracted and you can go, no, this isn't what I want in my life. And I've been doing that recently because I found that I've been on the phone more, playing games and just being on Facebook. I found that I've been doing that a lot more recently, just for whatever reason. You're human, you start to do it. And now when I pick up the phone, I take a breath and I'm like, is this actually what I want to do? And I'm like, no, I want to pick up a book and read and study and learn more about the brain. I don't want to do this. I want to read.
Yeah.
And then I instantly pick up the book. And just by taking that breath and going, okay, is this truly what I mean to be doing right now? And I'm like, no, I've just got caught up in this unconscious habit that I've started growing.
And I think that is the thing, isn't it? It's habit. You know, it's like, you know, when you're packing smoking, you have a habit, and then you need something to replace that. And it's easy to get into. So I have a habit now that my phone is on silent. It doesn't beep. I have no notifications. If my phone rings, I don't answer it unless it comes up, ma'am. And that's, you know, so if it's not somebody in my phone book or I know a friend or anything like that, then I don't answer it. If clients want to speak to me, I've got a booking app and we book calls. My email is opened usually 3 times a day. So I go in the morning after I've done my important stuff, then I go in at lunchtime, then I go in at night. I don't actually have email on my mobile phone. I disconnected it. So it's another sort of notification or another distraction that I've managed to minimize. And that is, you know, if we want to get stuff done, we've got to remove a lot of these distractions, because a lot of these distractions aren't actually giving us money. You know, yes, if you were responding to every email that came in because it was a client, or it was somebody saying, you know, I've got an inquiry, I want to book your services, then that's okay. That's fine. But a lot of these emails, a lot of notifications on Facebook, a lot of that sort of stuff isn't potentially going to give us money. All it's going to do is stop us getting where we want to go to. It's going to stop us achieving our goals. So you have to really, really be mindful of your time and what you put efforts into and where you are actually spending your time. So if stuff is becoming a distraction, if you're you know, spending time on Facebook or emails is becoming a distraction, then start taking evasive action to get rid of that and remove that. You're back. You vanished all of a sudden. I think you're on mute, Michelle. You're on mute.
Mute button. I'm here, but somebody just by accident phoned my phone, which took me out. Can you guys hear what I can hear, or can you just hear me?
I can just hear you.
Brilliant. I'm going to do this because I've got an audio playing in here that the phone set off, and I can't find out where it is from. And it's from the computer somewhere, and I have no clue what is playing. No. So I'm gonna do that. So keep talking while I work out where this audio book's coming from, please.
So I think one of the big takeaways from today's conversation is to, you know, if you haven't done that now, is start to set your goals, start to brainstorm your goals. So get a big sheet of paper and put all these goals down. And I'll just have a look inside my my journal to the different areas that I write down goals for. So like I said, one of the big things you need to do is write down your goals for different areas. And these could be like your goals for over the course of the year. And that goes into, so I break it down to income and shoots. So what your goals are financial, your shoots, your branding and pricing. Where do you want your business to be brand-wise? And also price, you know, what do you want to be charging? Website, blogging and SEO, social media and authority. What's your goals for there? How many followers do you want on Facebook? How many followers do you want on LinkedIn and Instagram? Authority, would you like to be an ambassador for a particular company? joint ventures and collaborations. Who would you like to work with? Whether those are businesses that already support your sort of business, and passive income and projects, as well as personal and lifestyle goals and rewards. Your rewards might be, to get that new car. Now, when we talk about passive income and projects, this is something which actually my next book is going to be about, developing a passive income as a photographer. So, I've just created a bit of a passive income by bringing my third book out. And my new business, which is a website business, is a passive income because it has a monthly recurring fee that people pay for their website. Now, Michelle has created something, her podcast, which will eventually become a passive income for our business. And photographers around the world, that something we really need to start focusing on and thinking about is how we can generate additional income for our business that will make us money while we sleep. And pretty much every single area of photography allows you to make passive income. For me, they're selling your products, your services, or your knowledge. And that
I
is
also
really
do
key,
book covers as well. I do book covers as well, which is stock photography. It's not the low end stock that a lot of people are aware of. It's a lot higher end. But it's a case of I go out and shoot for fun, upload the images, and then it becomes another way of passive income.
Yeah.
And things like Amazon links as well. When you recommend stuff, you can have an Amazon link and earn a small commission. So yeah, there's lots of things you can do passively. But I am back. I can hear now. Spotify switched on. That's what it switched on. So Spotify decided to start talking a podcast at me over the top of you. So I was like, I really hope you guys can't hear this. So yeah, that's where I disappeared to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So next year, get your goals set. That's one big thing. Brainstorm your goals, break them all down. And then when you've got those goals, break them down again into areas, So if your goal is to have a new website, break that down into sort of like by this month, I want to have my homepage and my about page created, and then break that job down, that homepage, into a week. So this week I'm going to sort out the images. Next week I'm going to sort out the text. So get your big goals and start breaking them down into manageable goals, that non-negotiable tasks like Michelle has, and maybe pick 2 of those per week to make sure you're actually getting this stuff done. And then
block
also
time out in your diary.
Definitely
block it out, because if you don't block it out, you'll keep saying, I'll do that tomorrow, I'll do that this afternoon, I'll do that next week, and you'll get busy. I see people do it with marketing. They get busy, they drop marketing in their business because they're shooting so much and editing so much that they just don't bother. And then 2 months later, they're going to me, why have I got no clients? And I'm like, because you dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Because you didn't schedule an hour every day to keep the ball up and keep the ball going.
Mm-hmm.
And we as humans will not do something if we don't schedule it. So if we don't schedule a walk, we'll keep moving it until suddenly it's too dark and you're like, oh, I won't bother today, I'll go tomorrow. Because we haven't said every day at 3 or Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 3, I'm going to go for a walk. And because you don't set a time and you don't set an hour to get this, and literally say to yourself, I'm going to set an hour or 2 hours a day to work on my goal. That's all it's going to be for. It's going to be work on my business goal to move my business forward. And as you can tell, I'm very passionate about scheduling time. But if you don't do it, you won't do it.
Yeah. And if you schedule that time set aside, you get that done. Remember that ultimate thing, you get that new website, you get that social media following, you win that new contract. When these things start to happen that affects the financial and the profit, the financial elements of your business and your business profitability, so you get more money and you're making more profit, what you're going to do with that, you're going to take a percentage of that and put that into your little rewards pot or your personal pot that is going to pay for that holiday to Iceland, or pay for that new car, or take the wife away on a surprise holiday to New York or something like that. And it's so good to have all these little things that you work towards, instead of just spending the money on bills or spending the money on things that you don't really need. Oh, get a new t-shirt, get this. Start putting a bit away and think of something really big and think, right, yeah, okay, it might be a trip to Antarctica that costs 10 grand. If you want it, set the target, set the pot, and then start putting it away. Because in a couple of years' time, that might actually happen. That might become true, you know. But people say, I've always wanted to do that. I've always dreamed of it. Well, if it's a dream, start putting stuff away to make that dream come true, because it will eventually get there. You know, in 12 months' time, you're going to be closer to it than when you are now. If you make
and if you're not putting stuff away and you're not doing it, ask yourself what belief is holding you back. It's usually a belief that is sat holding you back. You think you can't do it or something. So do ask yourself what the belief is, because there'll be something there that's stopping you from physically going forward with the goal, whatever that is, whatever you've convinced yourself it is. You know, people will convince themselves, oh, I really want to live in this place, but I can't do it because it's this, that, the other, and I'll never make it. And then they will never put the 5% or the 10% or whatever it is. They will never put anything away, even though they can.
Yeah.
Because they truly believe they can never have that thing, or they can never gain that thing. And that's something you need to look at your goals as well. Are you self-sabotaging your goals because you don't believe you can have it?
Yeah.
Because that's so important.
Yeah, you got to believe in yourself, and you know, because everybody can achieve. You know, we all have that ability. You know, we've got if we've got the Wi-Fi, we've got the internet, we've got the opportunity to reach out there. We've got our health, and we've got our mind, and we can focus on something. Then we can all achieve amazing things. You know, if you listen to some of those audiobooks that I often listen to, you know, like listening to people who, you know, Shoe Dog was a brilliant one by Phil Knight, you know, who created Nike, and you know, $500 in his parents' bedroom creating these training shoes, and then multi-billion-dollar company. Everybody starts from a very beginning. You know, every photographer, I don't care how talented you are, I would say 99.9% of photographers start by doing the first jobs for free, and then, you know, they build up a brand and they build up a reputation, you know, and then these top photographers are charging, you know, huge amounts of money, but they didn't actually leave college or pick up a camera and get 10,000 for the first shoot. You know, they had an idea, they had a vision, and then they did it. So we all have that ability. We just got to make it happen and make ourselves available for opportunity, and having that dream. Because if we have the dream and see it, we're going to try and get ourselves in ways to make it happen.
Every top photographer was where you were or are.
Yeah.
Everyone started out as a beginner. No one wasn't a beginner at some point. And that's something I think sometimes we forget. So, yeah. We said we'd chat a little bit about making 2023 your year for success. I just want to say, can you reword your New Year's resolutions? Because New Year's resolutions has a belief behind them that they never happen after 2 weeks into the year. This is why I'm glaring at you all. Start calling them New Year intentions. It's a much better way of doing it. And don't try and change everything in January. So your New Year's intentions could be, in January, I'm going to start going to the gym more. And I'm picking health because that's the biggest one for the new year.
Yeah.
In February, I'm going to increase my steps by 1,000. In March, I'm going to add in eating 3 meals a day and making sure I'm having more protein. Don't do what everybody does with the new year and go, right, new year, new me, new business, new everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get up at 5, even though I've been getting up at 11 every day. I'm going to go to bed at 9 o'clock at night. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to read. I'm going to journal. I'm going to do my fitness. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do my nutrition. Everything's changing. And we give up in 2 weeks because you can't physically as a human do that.
Yeah.
Guys, you can't. I just think that's a really important thing to talk about.
You got the whole year, as you say, you got the whole year to start phasing these things in and making these changes. So once you get one little change ingrained and you're doing it, then change it and you know, look at another change and then start ingraining that, you know, and it just becomes habit. You know, like for habit now for me, if I see a little message come up on my Facebook Messenger and it's a voice clip or it's a client's voice clip or somebody's sent me a message, I do not sit down, I stand up. So I've now got this habit. I see this, and I'll probably do this as soon as I come up with this live. I'll jump up, I'll walk in the living room, I'll have my phone, and I'll walk round and round and round replying to those people, because it's surprising how many steps you can get, and that all adds up, you know. And when you look at that, you're like, oh, right over the course of the week, I've just burned off an extra 2,000 calories, which equates to about 8 Snickers bars, or about,
How many Freddos? How many Freddos?
quite a lot of Freddos, isn't it? But 20 Freddos, 20 Freddos, just by walking around in my living room in a position where I otherwise would have been sat on my backside doing nothing. So it's just these little things, So it's about developing those routines and those habits all the way through the year to, as you say, make a better version of yourself.
I think habits are fascinating as well. I read a book. I'm trying to remember which one it was, and the guy in the book was part of the army in some way, and they had a thing where every time they walked through a doorway, they had to do 3 push-ups or 5 push-ups or something. And he said when he left, he then every time he walked through a doorway, he wanted to jump down and do push-ups, because that was the habit that had been ingrained, which is how shows you how powerful the habit and routine becomes. Because for him to then feel odd walking through a doorway because he's not done his push-ups, that's how much they can affect your life and improve your life, or cause you some funny stares as you do push-ups as you've just walked through the local shop. But I think things like that.
So what's on our agenda for? So we're not going to be doing a live next week because I'm away at the British Institute of Professional Photographers. It's their sort of Christmas ball, their Christmas do, and their AGM, their meeting, their annual convention. So I'm away there next Thursday, but the following Thursday, which we're actually into December, it's the first of December, I think. Yes, so Thursday, the 1st of December will be our next live. And what we're going to be covering then?
We're discussing visualization and sort of manifestation. So we're going a little bit more what I would call woo-woo, which I love, and talking about how powerful visualization is, both from an energetic position and also from a brain and scientific position as well, and how that works and helps you with your business and with life.
Brilliant.
I'm quite excited.
And what's been on the podcast this week? What was on your podcast?
So Monday, the podcast was, why is mindset important and what does success really mean? So I discussed looking at what success means to you rather than what our world seems to teach you success is. So they were the two. So we had 2 topics this week. Really understanding why I'm teaching what I'm teaching you and why it's so important to do it. And then understanding what your version of success is rather than everybody else's, because that can help with comparison as well.
And I've got your episode 3 downloaded on my phone because we don't get a very good reception up here. So I've downloaded it. So when I do actually eventually get out of the house to take the dog for a walk, in between the torrential rain that we're having, then I can listen to your episode number 3.
Yeah, the rain's been intense, hasn't it? I've got a wedding on Monday and I don't photograph weddings very often.
Oh, no.
And I'm just looking at the weather. But it'll be perfect because actually my style kind of works with rain too, so it's fine.
Well, thanks very much, Michelle. If nobody's heard Michelle's podcast, if you haven't heard Michelle's podcast, it's the Photographer's Mindset Podcast. And
lose the it's just put in Photography Mindset podcast, because
I searched for it last night and put in, I think it was Photographer's Mindset podcast, and it came up and
comes up now. Yeah, I'm really excited.
On Amazon Audio, so it's definitely worth checking out. And the nice bite-sized chunks, only about I think the latest one's like 23 minutes or something.
I aim for around 20 minutes.
Yeah. Definitely worth. You can do it while you're walking the dog or you're cooking the tea. Motivation, a bit of mindset from Michelle, and it gives you a lot of positivity and sets you up for the rest of the week. So thanks a lot, guys, and thank you, Michelle, again for your time. And as I say, we'll not see you next week, but we will see you on Thursday, the 1st of December. You'll have to tell us what you had in your advent calendar if you've got a chocolate one as well.
I'm trying really hard not to buy a crystal one at the moment.
Go for it.
I can't tell you how hard that is. Much better than chocolates. Anyway, thank you guys so much. It's been great.
Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.